have with us former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent of Pennsylvania. He's the executive director of the Aspen Institute Congressional Program, and MSNBC political analyst Kimberly Atkins-Stohr. She is a Boston Globe columnist and co-host of the #Sisters-in-Law podcast.
So here we are, a whole new frontier with trade, being at the center of the Trump administration, thinking that they've actually fixed the problem by opening the gates with the UK. Charlie, what's your sense of what this arrangement is with the UK and the impact it has on American consumers and workers? Because I gave you the American Automotive Policy Council statement saying, under this deal, it will now be cheaper to import a UK vehicle with very little U.S. content than a USMCA-compliant vehicle from Mexico or Canada that has half American parts. This hurts American automakers, suppliers, and auto workers. So not a good deal?
Well, the United States and the UK should enter into a trade agreement, but not any trade agreement. I've been saying this for years. Ever since the British Brexited, they need trade agreements desperately. And frankly, so does President Trump, given this really absurd trade war. But they're rushing this. And so the devil will be in the details, as they say. But we don't know if this is a good deal or a bad deal today. But, the preliminary
We don't know if it is a deal today.
We don't even know. Look, to write a trade deal, it takes a lot of time. President Biden didn't do any trade deals. Trump did one. He did an update of NAFTA, USMCA, and they're out of practice. But my experience is, and we've done South Korea, Panama, CAFTA, Oman, all of them that I was involved with, it took time. I mean, these just cannot be forced and rushed. So this is a concept, but there's going to be a lot of commentary on it. It's a long way before it gets ratified, I think.
I think people talk about this all the time, but that the president does things to distract. I don't think this was a distraction today. I think that he needed to win. He has overpromised on these tariffs and underdelivered for weeks at this point. The Treasury Secretary and Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, have been saying, we're talking to a lot of people. A lot of folks want to negotiate with us. We're coming to agreements. And what we saw today, the big pomp and circumstance of this announcement, if you will, of a deal, we're going to use quotes every time we talk about a deal, I believe was to try to throw a little something out there in the ether, to put something on the table, as Michael Steele would say, to quiet some of the critics. But we're still going to be critical because this is not what they say it is.
It isn't. It's a shiny object. It's for something out there for people to look at and give them the opportunity to say, hey, we're doing something. But it's still like an arsonist saying, okay, well, I have a framework of a deal that's coming in a few weeks to get a fire hose out to this house as it burns. It's a problem that he created with this trade war that nobody asked for. And he's seeing the implications of it, and he's trying to do something. But here's the thing. Everything even that he said, we're going to get manufacturing again, just as you said, talk to automakers who he clearly doesn't have an understand about how cars and other cross-country goods are produced.
How we build a car in America, for heaven's sake.
And he's the one who negotiated USMCA. So the fact that he doesn't know that is really outrageous. The fact that he's saying, oh, well, they're going to we're going to make a great deal for the UK to export American agriculture. How are you going to do that when, first of all, the UK's safety standards are so high that with the gutting of the FDA and the USDA, they may not take a lot of this agricultural products? How are you going to produce this agriculture without immigrants who work in this field? And there are already trade groups saying that they're going to be hit terribly by the immigration policy. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, but there does not seem to be much there.
It's a lot of smoke and mirrors, but it's also, to your point, a lot of connected parts.
Correct.
And that is what he is not understanding. He's also not understanding, I think there are the poll numbers that show that Americans are unhappy with how they perceive these tariffs to be impacting the economy. There's also the fact that our allies are beginning to consider what the global trade order is going to look like without us. So there was reporting in the New York Times about how the EU is developing a backup plan. The European Commission, the executive arm of the European Union, announced 2 new steps that it would take to hit back at America if trade negotiations fail. Officials laid out about $107 billion worth of goods that they could target with higher tariffs in retaliation to the duties that the U.S. has announced or imposed. Here's the other part. They also said that the bloc would start a World Trade Organization dispute against the United States on Trump's across-the-board tariffs, as well as duties levied on cars and car parts. There is restructuring global trade. There is then restructuring the global order.
And what about the champagne? The EU, the champagne.
Well, those are geographic identifiers.
That is of particular interest to my co-host.
Well, yeah, well, it's champagne, it's Bologna, it's Gouda. I get it, but the problem we've got right now is Trump's level of tariffs are just so ridiculously high, and even with this UK agreement, whatever it is, he still maintains a 10% across the board. And the American people are reacting against these tariffs because this is a massive tax increase by any measure. Any Republican, who's against taxes, this is the mother of all tax increases. And that's why people are upset with it. This trade proposal is part of his disengagement policy, shutting down USAID, getting rid of soft power, retreating from our allies, trade war. This is all an inward-looking country, and frankly, it'll make us less prosperous. It'll make us poorer. And so this deal, I hope they get something together, but it doesn't sound like it's very comprehensive.
Right. America first becomes America alone becomes America last.
Yeah, and that's okay with MAGA Republicans who have a backward view of the American economy. They perceive any integration or relationship to be unequal. And so if you go into a relationship with that perspective, it's going to be very hard to reset it and get it to move, even if it is slightly out of balance, to fix it. There is, as you know, Congressman, right? There is an upside to having a trade imbalance with certain partners because of the way we consume their goods, and our people like it, and that's good. It's not out of line for that to happen. The problem that Donald Trump has goes to exactly what Commerce Secretary Lutnick said today. Let's listen to him about Trump's hopes for de-escalation with, shall I say the C word, China.
The president did say that he expects a, quote, good weekend with China. What would be defined as good?
Well, de-escalation. That's what the president hopes is a good outcome, is a de-escalating world where we go back to trading with each other, and then we work on a big deal together.
Everybody's already started de-escalating with the United States, and de-escalation is we're not going to be bothered with you. The Chinese are sitting there going, we're not. What are we going to do? What are you bringing to the table for us? Because as you noted, the tariffs are still high across the board, 140-some percent. So how does he de-escalate with China?
Well, look, the Chinese have a higher threshold for pain than we do. They're an autocratic regime. I don't think President Xi sits up at night worrying about public opinion. Right. They're going to take, this is hurting China, but you know what? They can take the pain easier than we can. And frankly, Trump 2.0 is not terribly different than Trump 1.0 when it came to the trade war. Remember what he did last time?
Bailed out the farmers.
He went after the Europeans. He went after Canada and Mexico on steel and aluminum. And they said, let's go after the Chinese. After sticking a stick in the eye of our allies, he wants to go after China. Did the same thing this time. He went after all of our friends in North America and in Europe, and then says, "Oh, now let's go after the Chinese together." This isn't working. It's incomprehensible to me. And by the way, China has an ability to substitute out a lot of the things that we send them easier than we do.
Yes,
soybeans, agricultural product, and so it's going to be harder for us. And I think Trump is miscalculated here, and Xi is in no position right now to negotiate. He doesn't feel he has to.
But his ego